First, top of the list, death committee. A lot of people ask this question. First of all, how many of you are subscribed to a death committee? Brothers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Death committee. Okay, that's fine. Now, I'm sure some of the sisters are also subscribed to this. Now, I've written a detailed answer on this. I've written a detailed fatwa, and it's actually on our JK Fatwa website. So if you go to a JK Fatwa website, you know the icon where it says Q&A. If you go to the death, it says they're subscribing to a death committee. Is it permissible or not permissible? So really, it's a detailed answer. It's probably one of the detailed answers you find there. I've not come across any detailed answer. Maybe there is now. So I wrote this answer 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, in the year 2020, because this question arose especially because due to COVID. Now, there has been a lot of back and forth discussion, and by the way, Maulana Zafar Sahib, who delivered the Janazah workshop, they also have their own death committee. So I've even spoken to him. Now, there's a couple of things. Again, my time is very limited, but if you want to know the detailed answer, please do refer to the JK Fatwa website. I'll go through the details of the procedures and so on. First of all, so to break it down, two things. Number one is that what's the function of death committee? What's the function of a death committee? And number two is that should we using it or should we take benefit from this, yes or no? Now you need to understand that this death committee is not something that existed in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Again, not to say that something was not in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we discount it as bid'ah straight away. It doesn't work like that. It's just that something that which, if there's a new scheme, a new phenomenon, a new scheme that's emerged that did not exist in the earlier times, then it requires ulamas and scholars to visit that and to investigate and to research into that matter in light of the Sharia principles, right? In light of the Sharia principles. Now, death committee, the whole purpose of this death committee being established is, number one, is supposed to be a non-profit scheme, and it's there to offer support and assistance to all the members, financial assistance and financial support to all the members who subscribe to this particular committee. Now, you've got people from various different backgrounds having this death committee. Yes, so the purpose is mu'awana. They call it mu'awana, which means supporting one another. Now, the thing is that there's no actually standard condition of how it's applied, because so many people have settled the death committee. Some have done it in masjids, some funeral services have done it, for example, on Muzaffar, and some people have done it privately. As of which, it could be very fluid. Yes, so each and every one of them, they employ a different strategy or different mechanism, and they have different set of conditions. But typically what exists across the board is that you have to pay a certain admin fee, 30, 35 pounds, 40 pounds, whatever it is. You have to pay admin fee to become part of the member. And then once you've done that, then you have to pay a certain amount every single year. Some 50 pounds, some 100 pounds, some 200 pounds every single year for you to maintain your membership in this committee. So what happens is all that money that is then collated is placed into a pot, and you have trustees who are guardians over this money, and whoever dies from the members, then that money is used from this pot to fund all of the necessary funeral expenses. Now, some people, what they do is they also pay for the ticket abroad. Some, they pay for the food as well. If there's any food, for example, on the third day or the fourth day or whatever, they also pay for the cost. Some will not cover the cost. So the more benefits they give, the more they charge. The less benefits they give, the less they charge. But it's to at least to cover all essential funeral costs. So to save a person, because it can be extortion amount, isn't it, right? So it kind of gives some kind of alleviation to the person. Now, what's the Sharia ruling regarding this? Does this fall under insurance? That's the question that people ask. Again, I'm simplifying it for you. That if, for example, you're paying £100 every year, if you do not die, and you're continuously paying £100, and if you do not die, what happens to that money then? Now, the Sharia ruling is that this falls under, by default, mu'awana and tabarru'at, which means supporting one another and a form of charity. What this means is that the primary beneficiaries should be the members themselves, not the trustees. What happens in an insurance company is that once you pay X amount every year, if you don't have a car accident and nothing happens, who takes benefit from that money? The insurance companies, right? Insurance companies and the brokers and those investors, they take full benefit from that, don't they? So what happens in an insurance policy system is that one party loses, one party gets benefit. Yes, one party loses, one party benefits, right? What should make this committee different from insurance is that regardless of when a person dies or not, number one, none of the trustees should profit from this. They're just guardians, that's all they are. Who are the primary beneficiaries? Primary beneficiaries are the members. So basically that money, it belongs to the members. Number one. Number two is that people should give it with the intention of sadaqah. So you become part of a scheme, an organized scheme, but when you're contributing with the intention of supporting somebody else and give it as a sadaqah. Why should it be that case? And I think, personally, this needs to be specified in conditions. The reason being is because many people are trying to establish it as not permissible because one or two reasons. They've conflated it with insurance, only in the case that if the trustees, they benefit, in other words, they're making a business out of it for themselves, number one. Or number two is the case that if that you're giving the money with the intention of a loan, then it gets overcomplicated. Well, that means that no these committees that people do, saving committees, right? It's like credit and lending, isn't it, right? But from my understanding, that it should not be done that way in death committees. It all should be purely sadaqah and tabarru. Yes, sadaqah and tabarru. So it's not a loan system, neither should be devoid of a loan system. So as long as it's tabarru, as long as it's to do with mu'awana, assisting one another, and as long as the trustees, they're not profiting from this to their own business, then it makes it completely halal and permissible. So by default, that's how the death committee scheme should be. Now, can we rule it as blanket as permissible and non-permissible? As I've presented in my detailed fatwa, it depends on each individual's conditions. So the scheme is good, it is encouraged, it should be. However, whether to determine a particular person's scheme permissible or not, it depends on the terms and conditions. I'll just give you one common example, and if there's any questions, we can discuss that later on. One common example is that if somebody, for example, is contributing as tabarru, and let's say, for example, that they delay the payment, the question is that can you fine them or not? Can you fine them for delay in payment? If it's under the pretext of tabarru and sadaqah and offering assistance, then you are not allowed to fine anyone. Then you shouldn't be fining anyone. That's against the ethical principles. It doesn't render the whole thing haram, but just this Abdul clause itself won't be permissible. So from my perspective, my understanding is that they should not be fined, and neither should they charge an extortion amount. There are some committees I've interviewed. When I was preparing this fatwa, I interviewed a few people and I spoke to people. I spoke to one trustee member. What they do is that as part of a joining fee, they charge about £700-800. And I said, why are you charging £700-800? So the scheme that they have is that the committee started in 1985. So if somebody, for example, was to join today, then however much it was in the previous years, they'll charge all of that since 1985 as part of the admin fee. Some actually do that. And I said that is that's taking wrong advantage of people, because if somebody wants to join it and they're using an admin fee, this is admin fee, and an admin fee you don't need, because charging admin, there's nothing wrong with that in Islam. There's no Sharia violation in that. This is just like an ethical issue that many people, they pay £50, £100. Why are you charging £700-800 or £900 or even close to £1,000? Okay, so to include the memberships is 1985. I don't understand the logic behind that. Okay, so that, for example, that's just like that's unethical. And likewise, charging people a fine because of the delayed payment, I think that's also unethical as well. What they can do though is that they can cancel the membership. They can cancel the membership, but then they have to reapply. Now, if the membership has been cancelled, can they ask for the money back? The members, no, you can't, because if you already give something as sadaqah and tabarru, you cannot ask for it back. Okay, this is just a simple suggestion. Okay, right? And again, to determine whether this is permissible or not permissible, we have to look at each individual's committee's conditions. Okay, because they all vary. So in short, so the simple answer to this is every committee functions differently based on their perspective, on their respective conditions. Overall, it is permissible as it falls under the remit of charity and assistance, provided that the trustees don't profit from the money. It's as simple as that. And the conditions and the clauses are added, they do not go against the Sharia principles. So is that clear? So that's the simplest answer. And I've got put my reference there for the detailed fatwa. So that's the answer to question number one. Question number two.